I'm Teisha Bader with Shalom TV's news update for Tuesday, July the 15th, 2014. Rocket fire resumed on Israel this morning after Hamas rejected a ceasefire proposed by Egypt. Israel had accepted the terms of the ceasefire this morning, but Hamas had rejected it, proceeding to fire dozens more rockets into Israel.
As you know, Israel has accepted the Egyptian ceasefire proposal. Our goal was and remains putting an end to rocket fire from Gaza on our cities and providing the citizens of Israel with the sustained peace and quiet to which they are entitled.
However, Netanyahu also warned that if the rocket attacks continued, Israel would hit back and broaden its military operation. And following the rocket fire from Gaza this morning and holding its fire for 6 hours, Israel's Air Force conducted airstrikes on terror targets in Gaza this afternoon. U.S. Secretary of State John Kerry had denounced Hamas's rejection of the ceasefire. He told a press conference in Vienna this morning, "I cannot condemn strongly enough the actions of Hamas in so brazenly firing rockets in multiple numbers in the face of a goodwill effort to offer a ceasefire, in which Egypt and Israel work together, that the international community strongly supports." Among the over 40 rockets fired at Israel this morning, 2 landed in a lot, causing light injury to 3 people. Last night, another rocket fired into Israel from Lebanon. It landed in an open area near Rosh Hanikra. IDF artillery forces returned fire. Also yesterday, 2 sisters in the Beersheba area were wounded when rockets struck the Bedouin village of Lakia. The older sister, who is 13, was lightly injured by shrapnel from the rocket. Her 11-year-old sister was critically injured. She remains in the intensive care unit of Beersheba's Soroka Medical Center. The Anti-Defamation League has issued a security advisory to Jewish institutions and synagogues after several anti-Israel demonstrations around the world, including most recently in Paris on Sunday. As we reported to you yesterday, a pro-Palestinian rally in Paris turned violent when a group of protesters tried to storm a synagogue, trapping about 150 people inside until police were able to disperse the rioters. The ADL issued the advisory to encourage heightened vigilance and security measures among Jewish institutions. ADL National Director Abe Foxman said the events taking place in Israel and the Gaza Strip have resulted in tense atmospheres at anti-Israel rallies in Europe and across the United States. He said while most of the demonstrations in the U.S. have been peaceful, we are encouraging Jewish institutions, organizations, and synagogues to have a heightened sense of awareness, particularly in light of what is happening overseas. World Jewish Congress President Ronald Lauder also expressed his grave concern, saying yesterday such attacks are intolerable and the authorities must do everything they can to guard Jews and Jewish institutions from this wanton violence. And B'nai B'rith International also responded to the events in Paris. Executive Vice President Daniel S. Mariashin said on Monday, these latest attacks on the French Jewish community remind us that our vigilance in protecting the global Jewish community cannot wane. B'nai B'rith called on the French government to pursue those responsible for the incident on Sunday and ensure the safety and security of all French citizens. Nobel Prize-winning Jewish writer Nadine Gordimer has died. The South African anti-apartheid activist died at her home in Johannesburg on Sunday at the age of 90. Gordimer's novels include Burger's Daughter, July's People, and A Sport of Nature. She won the Nobel Prize for Literature in 1991. The Nelson Mandela Foundation described Gordimer as, quote, a great writer, patriot, and voice for equality and democracy. She is survived by her son and her daughter. 5 organizations from across the globe have won the Ruderman Prize in Inclusion. The $50,000 prize honors groups that offer services to foster the full inclusion of people with disabilities in the Jewish community. President of the foundation, Jay Ruderman, noted the winners from Australia, Canada, Israel, and the U.S. and said it is our hope that these awards will inspire Jewish organizations around the world to embrace the inclusion of people with all abilities in our community. The winners are Jewish Vocational Service of Toronto, Jewish Care Big Brother Big Sister in Sydney, Australia, Bar Ilan University in Israel, Jewish Family Services of Houston, and the St. Paul Jewish Community Center in St. Paul, Minnesota. And turning now to our Shalom TV programming for tonight, Tuesday, July the 15th. At 8 o'clock, a discussion titled, Can Israel Win the PR War? With Professor Gerald Steinberg from Bar Ilan University and Professor Gil Troy of McGill. With the Jewish Week's Linda Scherzer. That is sponsored by American Friends of Bar Ilan and the Jewish Week from the Park Avenue Synagogue in New York City. And then at 9 o'clock on L'chaim, Mark Golub is joined by Dr. Jonathan Halevi, who is Director General of Shaarei Tzedek Medical Center in Jerusalem, who talks about healthcare in Israel and comparing it to the U.S., discussing the way in which his hospital serves the entire community, including Palestinians. That's all coming up tonight here on Shalom TV and ShalomTV.com. And that's Shalom TV's news update for Tuesday, July the 15th, 2014. I'm Teisha Bader.